The Galactic Council chamber pulsed with low vibrations, a quiet unease cloaked beneath ceremonial grandeur. 36 species had gathered, some towering, some translucent, some resembling clouds of shifting gas, but all turned their attention to the humans as they entered. They arrived as a small procession. Ambassador Reyes walked at the center, diplomatic credentials glinting from the folds of her deep gray formal wear. On either side of her stood the human diplomatic guards, tall, motionless, unarmed. That was the first problem. Whispers stirred among the delegates. A few cranial nodules flashed orange, a sign of insult. The Krocthan delegate leaned to his aide and sneered in their native tongue. Do they believe they are invulnerable? Or expendable? Others were more direct. Their guards carry no weapons, hissed High Marshal Iravac of the Hellion Concord. This is a diplomatic hall, not a garden party. The humans gave no explanation. The guards stood in silence, gazes forward, bodies relaxed yet alert. Their uniforms bore no visible tools, armor, or augmentations. No plasma holsters, no neural disruptors, not even ceremonial daggers. Only calm eyes and steady breath. Ambassador Reyes stopped at the speaking platform, her tone warm but crisp. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, we come as friends, to learn and to contribute. We thank you for the honor of this assembly. Standard pleasantries. Standard tone. But the lack of armament made every word land with dissonance. The Silshuri diplomat whispered, "This must be psychological warfare. A test of boundaries." Reyes continued, "Our delegation is comprised of scientists, linguists, diplomats, and 2 security officers. Their purpose is not war, but peacekeeping." "Unarmed peacekeepers?" scoffed the delegate from the Rezari Combine. "A contradiction in terms." Reyes smiled slightly. "We disagree." From across the chamber, the Corellon Minister of Defense activated his voice amplifier. "Earth representative, is this some kind of deception? We have protocols. Diplomatic security must carry minimum-class defense equipment." "We are aware," Reyes said. "But our guards do not carry weapons." The hall simmered. No species on the Council had ever sent unarmed security. Some species, like the Drovans, genetically fused weapons into their guards at birth. Others engineered entire biologically bonded mechs for defensive presence. But these humans brought nothing. The tension crackled. The guard to Rhea's left, Commander Rafik, tilted his head slightly, but remained silent. His body betrayed no anxiety, only perfect control. "We could offer you standard council weaponry," offered a drone chassis voice from the administrative board. "As a courtesy." "Thank you," Reyes said. "We decline." Murmurs turned into murmurs layered with suspicion. The Zirian ambassador's facial fronds curled in aggression. "They must rely on covert tech. Implanted devices. Stealth weaponry." The idea caught on. Perhaps the humans had microblade implants. Hidden field disruptors. Invisibility grenades tucked into their molars. But scans had been conducted before entry. All delegates passed through council-grade bioscanners. The guards triggered nothing. And yet they stood without fear. Rafik's eyes scanned the room once, then returned to the horizon line. The Kesari chairperson leaned forward, her voice dry and clicking. "Forgive our inquiry, Ambassador Reyes. But if your delegation were attacked, what would your guards do?" "They would protect me," Reyes said. "With what?" someone muttered. Her reply was immediate. "With what they were trained for." Another pause. Another silence too long. Then came the phrase that began to unsettle everyone. Rafik spoke, voice calm and deep. "We are not unarmed. We are merely not armed with weapons." He said nothing more. The ambiguity of that line haunted the chamber. Delegates stared at the guards, searching for an edge, a signal, a hidden threat. Was this performance? Was this madness? The ambassador of the Leaktau Collective tapped a claw against her glass data slab, voice cold. "Are you telling us your guards would die before drawing a weapon?" Reyes paused only for breath. "Yes." The Leaktau scoffed. "Then your protection is ceremonial." "No," Reyes said. It's intentional. Some took it as arrogance. Some took it as a riddle. The Galactic Council was a place where veiled threats were common, but naked restraint. That was new. And deeply unnerving. The session adjourned for recess shortly after. But no one really relaxed. Delegates clustered in language-linked circles, speculating about human motives. Some assumed the humans were hiding something. Others feared they weren't. Near the chamber's edge, a Rezari tactical analyst hissed through clenched mandibles. Either they are fools, or they are monsters. Outside the chamber, the human guards remained silent. Still unarmed. Still alert. And still not afraid. The recess ended in abrupt fashion. A commotion erupted just before the chamber doors resealed. One of the lesser-known ZYR delegates had broken formation. His aides shouted in confusion. The delegate surged forward, a thin bone-sheath sliding from beneath his robe, alive, razor-sharp, and aimed directly at Ambassador Reyes. He was fast. Faster than expected from a ZYR. Close range. No warning. The guards moved before anyone else even understood what was happening. Specialist Lane took 3 steps, not running, flowing. Her arm intercepted the attacker's wrist in mid-strike. Rafik reached the ZYR's thorax, twisted his stance, and displaced his center of gravity. No punches. No weapons. No pain visible. The ZYR hit the floor with a soft thud. Disarmed. Alive. 2 Council security bots arrived seconds later, late. They tried to take over. Rafik stepped back, hands raised. Subject is neutralized, he said. Council members stood frozen. Replay requests pinged the chamber systems. The footage was pulled instantly. High-resolution feeds looped the event again and again. Delegates watched the guards move. Not erratic. Not reactive. They moved with pre-calculated precision, intercepting the threat with absolute control and zero collateral risk. The Hellion Marshal narrowed his luminous eyes. They didn't strike back. Not even a counterblow, whispered the Korn diplomat. They stopped him like he was a child. Silence. Then accusations. The ZYR coalition ambassador stood, antennae quivering with anger. This was a setup. A staged incident to display superiority. Reyes replied flatly. We do not risk lives for theater. But you didn't neutralize him with lethal force. The Grawl delegate snarled. You let him live. You didn't make an example. That is the example, Reyes said. Explain. Someone barked. Commander Rafik finally looked up. If we had responded with lethal force, he said, there would be blood. That blood would have consequence. Our job is not to make examples. It is to end threats without starting wars. The room sat stunned. You didn't even draw a hidden blade, muttered the Sileshari. Do you not have any? No, Lane replied simply. The Crocthan growled. That makes you negligent. Reyes shook her head. No. That makes us deliberate. The chamber fell into rapid discussion, some voices furious, others confused. A handful simply stared at the guards with a new weight in their eyes. Then came the question no one had asked yet. From the center dais, Councillor Ven of the Delari Assembly turned toward Reyes, her tone neutral, but sharpened at the edges. Then what governs your security doctrine, Ambassador? What policy instructs such restraint? Reyes didn't hesitate. We follow the Gandhi protocols. The name hit the chamber like a vacuum bomb. No noise, just immediate stillness. Gandhi protocols? A voice echoed. They are Earth's diplomatic security code, Reyes said. After our last planetary conflict, humanity adopted new doctrines. We learned that the most dangerous warrior is the one who refuses the first strike. Some sneered. Others leaned in. Reyes continued. All human diplomatic guards are former combatants. Veterans of our worst wars. They are selected not for their ability to kill, but for their refusal to do so without cause. You train them to die? We train them to endure, Rafik corrected. The ZYRR attacker, now restrained by bots, began muttering deliriously. They moved like shadows, they weren't angry. He sounded less like a failed assassin, more like a man trying to explain something impossible. Lane's eyes didn't move from the chamber. We are bound by protocol, she said. We may only escalate after all non-lethal methods are exhausted. That includes body placement, verbal de-escalation, environment manipulation, and if necessary, redirection of force. The Graal delegate snorted. And if redirection fails? Then we die, Rafik said. The weight of that sentence did not go unnoticed. You expect us to believe Earth trains its elite guards to accept death before resorting to lethal force? The Razari ambassador asked. We don't expect you to believe, Reyes said. We expect you to observe. Delari Counselor Vena's voice returned. You've redefined peacekeeping into martyrdom. No, Reyes replied. We've redefined power. Several delegates reviewed incident reports from Earth's colonial archives, quiet mentions of similar actions on far-flung settlements. Human guards intervening in riots, hostage situations, or interspecies conflicts, always without weapons. Always ending without escalation. What if the attacker had succeeded? Asked a synthetic representative from the Mechari. Then we mourn, Rafik said. But we do not retaliate. The concept clashed violently with centuries of council doctrine. Retaliation was standard. Response matrices were built on proportional force. Preemptive defense was normal. But the humans had rewritten the rules. And they had succeeded. One by one, the delegates realized something profoundly unsettling. The humans weren't unarmed because they were weak. They were unarmed because they had chosen to be. And that choice, that control, unsettled the chamber more than any threat ever could. After the chamber quieted, requests for clarification poured in from nearly every block. The term, Gandhi Protocols, had ignited something. Curiosity from the cautious. Concern from the dominant. Fear from the violent. Counselor Van initiated formal inquiry. Earth, submit complete documentation on this protocol for review. All historical context, psychological basis, and tactical guidelines. Reyes agreed. You'll find it short, but not simple. The documentation was instantly relayed. What followed was an hour of silence filled only by the sound of minds being changed. The Gandhi Protocols were not military doctrine. They were the outcome of post-war ethics tribunals, cultural trauma, and centuries of philosophical refinement. Their core tenet was brutal in its simplicity. Those capable of killing must hold themselves to higher restraint than those incapable. Council members scrolled through behavioral simulations, case studies, and data logs. Over 80 instances of violent escalation diffused by guards with 0 fatalities. Each event followed the same rigid sequence: verbal warning, body positioning, de-escalation tactics, pressure redirection, and only as last resort, unconscious subdual. No lethal strikes. No panic. No errors. A common thread emerged in every case. The guards anticipated aggression not by reacting to it, but by recognizing the conditions that created it. They moved before fear bloomed. And they did so with frightening precision. One report detailed a hostage crisis on the mining colony Arc 7. A rebel had strapped fusion charges to his chest. The human guard entered alone. Unarmed. No shields. 47 minutes later, the man surrendered, disarmed, crying. No shot fired. No one injured. The transcript revealed the key phrase. You want to be heard. So let me hear you. But if you hurt them, no one will ever understand you again. The rebel broke. Another file showed a riot suppression on a transport station in neutral space. Guards used no force, just formation, eye contact, strategic silence. The mob dispersed. One alien witness described it as being stared down by death that refused to speak. Counselor Hirith of the Warborn Graal said flatly, They've weaponized pacifism. The Mechari AI, after parsing 3,000 hours of footage, issued a mathematical conclusion. These humans operate at a paradox. Their threat level is highest when they refuse violence. Data was one thing. Culture was another. Delegates demanded origin. Why did humanity adopt this path? Reyes answered. We lost 2 billion in our last war. Nations collapsed. Empires died. When we rebuilt, we didn't just rewrite laws. We rewrote values. No species rewrites instincts, muttered the Razari. Humans do, Rafik said. When we don't, we die. The protocols had been forged in the ashes of near extinction. On Earth, soldiers who returned from war weren't discarded. They were retrained, not to forget violence, but to understand it. Deeply. Without romanticism. Without rage. Candidates for diplomatic guard positions underwent psychometric testing that filtered for impulse control, empathy under duress, and pattern recognition under extreme emotional stress. Less than 1 in every 500 applicants passed. Combat skill was a requirement. But self-mastery was the gatekeeper. Only those who had faced death and refused to pass it on were considered. Lane spoke again, voice calm. Our training is not about how to fight. It's about how not to. The Sileshari leaned back, speaking more to himself than anyone. You selected warriors, who could choose death with dignity. Rafik nodded. Because those who are willing to die for peace are the only ones who truly understand its cost. Counselor Vena's voice carried across the floor. You've created a deterrent. One that offers no visible threat. No, Reyes said. We've created a promise. That we will not be the first to destroy. But we will be the last to yield. It wasn't rhetoric. The data confirmed it. In one incident, a human guard allowed himself to be wounded rather than strike prematurely. That act alone de-escalated the situation, as the attacker, expecting retaliation, froze, confused. It broke the script of violence. And without that script, chaos lost momentum. Several counselors reviewed footage in stunned silence. Over time, a pattern emerged. Wherever Earth's guards operated, escalation rates dropped by 80%. Local enforcement injuries plummeted. Violent confrontations decreased. The mere presence of unarmed humans altered the behavior of those around them. Not because they projected dominance, but because they made violence feel foolish. The Krocthan delegate, known for his cynicism, said what many others were now thinking. It only works because everyone knows what humans could do. Reyes met his gaze. Exactly. Humanity hadn't disarmed from weakness. They had disarmed from the terrifying confidence of a species that had seen war's bottomless pit, and refused to dive back in. The protocols weren't a limitation. They were a message. We do not need weapons to be dangerous. We know what we're capable of. We simply choose not to prove it. That choice, backed by history and discipline, made them more formidable than fleets. Because any species that chooses restraint when it has every right not to, cannot be predicted. Cannot be provoked. Cannot be controlled. They are not dangerous in spite of their peace. They are dangerous because of it. The vote came 2 days later. Each delegation, after heated debate, submitted their decision on Earth's proposed inclusion into the Galactic Council's Inner Security Circle, a status granted only to species with demonstrated tactical stability and strategic restraint. The room held its breath. Many had expected rejection. Earth was young, aggressive in history, unorthodox in philosophy, and the image of unarmed guards still unsettled many. But the tally told a different story. 32 in favor. 4 abstained. None opposed. Earth was accepted. Ambassador Reyes offered no celebration. Only a simple nod and a final statement. We thank the Council for its trust. Know this, we will never raise a weapon first. But we will be the last to stop watching. The meeting adjourned. As the chamber emptied, several delegations approached the human team. The Delari wanted to study the Gandhi protocols further, not to replicate them, but to understand how conviction could be trained like a muscle. The Corellans, militaristic to their core, asked for access to non-lethal methods documented in Earth's database. Even the Razari, who had earlier ridiculed the philosophy, requested joint security exercises. For research. But not all were convinced. Councillor Rax of the Hellion Concord called it dangerous precedent. What happens, he demanded, when one of your own breaks protocol? When one of your guards loses restraint? Rafik answered him directly. We don't pretend perfection. But any human who breaks the protocol forfeits their status, publicly, without exception. And every guard knows it. Lane added. That's why we don't rely on loyalty. We rely on discipline. Loyalty can fail. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks if you remember who you are. That, more than anything, silenced the remaining critics. It wasn't idealism. It was structure. Systems built around restraint, not reaction. Values enforced not by threat, but by consequence. The humans had done what no other species dared. They had placed the highest burden not on enemies, but on themselves. And they carried it without complaint. Months passed. Human guards began appearing at more council events. Always in pairs. Always unarmed. Always composed. And every time, their presence changed the room. Fewer outbursts. Fewer dramatic exits. Even the more volatile species tempered themselves. Not out of fear. Out of respect. Because the humans never needed to posture. Delegates noticed a pattern. Those who tried to provoke the humans through insults, confrontation, or outright threats never got the satisfaction they sought. The guards didn't respond. They didn't retreat. They endured. And in their endurance, they made others question their own impulses. One incident stood out. A faction leader from a militarized syndicate threw a drink at Rafik during a trade summit. The act was symbolic, meant to assert dominance, test limits. Rafik didn't react. Didn't wipe it off. Just stood still. When asked later why he hadn't responded, he simply said, "My uniform isn't for pride. It's a reminder of responsibility." The footage spread. Delegates began to understand. The guards didn't view themselves as elite warriors. They saw themselves as barriers. Not between people and danger. Between people and themselves. Guards reported that the hardest part wasn't the restraint. It was watching others try to find the line they refused to cross, and doing nothing as those others exposed themselves. But the line held. Always. Eventually, the council passed a resolution. Human guards would be permitted to operate under their own protocols in any neutral zone, even during high-risk summits. No other species had that level of autonomy. Earth never demanded it. The council offered it. Because in time, they realized something profound. Most species believed security was about threat deterrence. Humans had proven it was about emotional gravity. By existing as quiet centers in volatile rooms, they created orbits of calm. Not peace through strength. Not peace through fear. Peace through example. When asked how long they planned to follow the Gandhi protocols, Reyes answered, "As long as there's anyone watching who might believe violence is the only answer." The meaning grew over time. Humanity hadn't come to the council to change others. They had come to show what could happen when a species truly confronted its own capacity for destruction, and refused to let it define them. And in doing so, they'd introduced a new kind of warfare. The warfare of restraint. The warfare of those who could crush, but choose to endure. Because the most terrifying thing in the galaxy isn't an unstoppable weapon. It's someone who doesn't need one.